Fani Willis is facing off against fighting House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, but she may be making more enemies than she bargained for. So in her latest response to the committee, Willis says that Jordan's request of extensive document demands is unreasonable and uncustomary and would also require that this government office to divert resources from their primary purpose of prosecuting crime. Now, this is after Jim Jordan sent a letter to Fani Willis threatening to hold her in contempt of Congress if she did not provide further documents by March 28th. So we're way past that now. But it does bring into question what DA Fani Willis has been doing. Now, some critics argue that she cloaks herself in God and race to say that she's above criticism. Unfortunately, that's something very commonplace to see the most powerful people in our government wear the cloak of unaccountability around their shoulders to ward off justifiable criticisms. Fani Willis seems to disregard everything and everyone as she's vowed to kind of bring former President Donald Trump's Georgia election interference case to trial in her letter to Jim Jordan. She says that nothing you do will derail the efforts of my staff and I to bring the election interference prosecution to trial. Definitely sounds like a woman that's out for blood there. So Fani Willis also recently declared to reporters that she is the only DA in the country with enough courage to prosecute former President Donald Trump in the Georgia election interference case. Now, like I said, guys, she is definitely making a lot of enemies with her strong words. For one, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, she filed a complaint for her disbarment over her illicit affair and corrupt actions. And if all else fails, Fani Willis is also facing two challengers in the Fulton County District Attorney race, leaving her fate in the hands of Fulton County voters later this year. Now, the question is, how long is Fani Willis really going to be able to last with all these enemies against her? Well, that's what we're going to try to figure out today, guys. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, before we do, all I ask is that you guys take 1 second, drop a quick like for the video. And I'd like to thank you so much for sharing this video on social media. You guys are awesome. So already, Fani Willis is facing her second disqualification hearing for alleged misconduct and affair with Nathan Wade. Check this out.
A second hearing is now set for the state Senate committee investigating misconduct allegations against Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. A new court filing in the last 24 hours from a co-defendant in the Trump election interference case says a Cobb County prosecutor can testify in court that Nathan Wade's former law partner Terrence Bradley told her many important details in person about Fani Willis and Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade's relationship. The filing says Cindy Lee Yeager can testify that Willis and Wade met in 2019 and started dating at or around that time. It also says Bradley had personal knowledge about their relationship before November 2021, meaning they started dating before Willis hired Wade.
So Willis sent a letter to House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan's office responding to a subpoena that he previously sent requesting more information for a House Judiciary Committee investigation into her use of federal funds. So the letter said that Willis categorically rejects the assertion that her office is deficient in responding to the committee's subpoena dated February 2nd, 2024. Instead, she says that her office is in the process of producing relevant documents on a rolling basis and is undertaking a good faith approach to provide Jordan with responsive information about the federal grant funding. Now, the letter goes on to state that Jordan's request of extensive documents demands it's unreasonable and it's uncustomary, and it will require that this government office to divert resources from our primary purpose of prosecuting crime. Now, just to kind of refresh everyone's memory here, Jordan and the House Judiciary Committee, they issued a subpoena to Fani Willis's office requesting documents related to her office's receipt and use of federal funds. But after Fani Willis's initial submission, Jordan basically didn't hear from her again, prompting them to send another letter threatening her to hold her in contempt of Congress if she did not provide further documents by March 28th. Now, according to Jim Jordan's letter, while Willis has indicated that additional documents may be forthcoming in response to the committee's subpoena, the committee has yet to receive any additional response materials in the 3 weeks since her initial response. Hence, they said that they expect Willis's office will produce all responsive documents to the subpoena in the categories prioritized by the committee no later than 12 p.m. on March 28th, 2024. And if she fails to do so, well, the committee will take further action, such as invocation of contempt of Congress proceedings. As the deadline passed, Willis's office produced the letter stating that they are working on producing additional documents, but did note that Jordan's efforts will not derail the election interference trial. Now, according to the letter, neither threats nor anything Jordan's colleagues or him can do or say will deter Fani Willis from fulfilling their duty to bring this case to trial. Now, like I said, Fani Willis is out for blood, guys. Some people comment that Jordan should just file the contempt charges and show her. What do you guys think? You see, the problem for a lot of people is how Fani Willis has been walking around with a sense of untouchability, using it to deflect the justifiable criticisms against her, like the conflict of interest that she had bringing Nathan Wade into the Trump trial. Many people say that Willis wore this cloak of unaccountability at the Atlanta historic Black Bethel AME Church. For a week, rumors swirled around Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, involving allegations of misconduct and a romantic relationship and entanglement with Nathan Wade, who happened to be a married special prosecutor that she brought on to manage President Donald Trump's RICO case. Breaking her silence, Fani Willis delivered a heartfelt 35-minute talk to the primarily African-American audience at the church. She said that they were focusing their criticism on her and addressing the accusations of playing the race card. She countered, "Isn't it them that's playing the race card when they only question one?" But she seems to be forgetting that this was coming from a perfectly legal motion from Trump 2020 campaign official and co-defendant Michael Roman, who argues that Willis should be disqualified from the case and that the charges against Roman dropped because the district attorney chose to appoint her romantic partner, who at all times relevant to this prosecution has been a married man. So Roman also mentioned how Wade used the nearly $654,000 in legal fees the Fulton County DA's office paid for his work on the Trump case to take Willis on expensive vacations and trips to Napa Valley, California, Florida, and even the Caribbean. Willis claimed in her church sermon that she paid all three of her special prosecutors the same hourly rate. But court documents showed a discrepancy in payment, showing John Floyd, the state's top RICO expert, $100 an hour less than Wade, who has no experience in the RICO law. Willis said that she's being constantly put under the microscope because of her gender and race, but she doesn't quite acknowledge the high-profile nature of prosecuting a former president as a potential factor for the scrutiny. Just a little detail that she's overlooked, I guess. Yes, she has received death threats and vile messages, something that no one should have to receive. But there are also different forms of criticism, some even fair. Instead, she opts to shield herself from her identity rather than addressing any missteps head-on. What's particularly troubling, though, is her choice to use this defense during a church service, where she spoke on political matters, wrapping herself in the narrative of enduring hardships as a Black woman. She even invoked Marjorie Taylor Greene as a counterpoint to her own experiences of harassment. Now, even Judge McAfee criticized her using her status and race to stand in front of a congregation of Christians as an elected official to garner political sympathy, and worse, church leaders applauded her political rhetoric in God's house. Her approach, especially in a sacred place, raises concerns not just about her, but also the role of churches, particularly in the African American community, where there's a tension between spiritual guidance and political involvement. Now, one could say that Atlanta's church leaders, by supporting Willis's politicized message, neglected the spirituality sanctity of their space, illustrating a broader issue within certain religious institutions prioritizing influence over spiritual integrity. For Willis's critics, Atlanta's church leaders stood by as Willis gave a campaign speech mixed with the invocation of God and embraced her after she finished poisoning the Lord's house with political rhetoric. Now, like I read in a piece earlier, the cloak of unaccountability might work on flawed men, but God sees right through it. Now, there's definitely a question here about the interaction between politics, personal identity, and religious spaces, especially considering how appropriate or inappropriate it was for Willis to blend these elements in the way that she did. Some even question her use of the title, the Honorable Fani Willis. They say that there should be nothing honorable about being corrupt and waving your lack of accountability in people's face. But what do you guys think? Now, while you think about that, I wanted to take a quick second and ask you guys just for a little favor. If you find this deep dive in any way informative or helpful to you, then please hit the like button down below. Totally appreciate that. It really helps out the channel. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on all notifications. That way you'll be the first to know when we drop new content. Believe me, you're not going to want to miss any of the twists and turns that this story has been taking. Your support means the world to me, so let's keep the channel going. All right, so Fani Willis has also said a lot of things about her election interference case against Donald Trump. So first, that nothing they do will derail the efforts of Willis's staff and her to bring the election interference prosecution to trial. And second, she told reporters just recently that she is the only DA in the country with enough courage to prosecute former President Donald Trump in this Georgia election interference case. This, despite defense attorneys accusing Willis of mishandling the case and Superior Judge Scott McAfee rebuking Willis for what he called a tremendous lapse in judgment. For that, people are saying that she is showing disdain for the law. And that's really scary that she's a district attorney. So they're calling for her disbarment and removal from the case. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has even filed a complaint for the disbarment of Willis over her illicit affair with a top prosecutor in Georgia election interference case against former President Donald Trump. She said on X that she's filing for Willis's disbarment for her corrupt actions. Greene said that Fani Willis should have been removed from her political persecution of Donald Trump after it was revealed she went on lavish vacations with her lover, Nathan Wade, the lover that she paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to. Then she declared Willis unfit to serve, something that I read some of you guys having said in the comments. But let's see how it all plays out, guys. Regardless, it could all boil down to the vote of the American people, considering how 2 attorneys qualified to enter the race against Willis in the election this year for Fulton County DA. So Christian Y. Smith, who unsuccessfully ran against Willis 4 years ago, is now challenging her once more in the primaries. The only Republican who qualified by the Friday deadline is Courtney Kramer, who interned in the White House counsel's office under Trump in 2018. The Democratic primary election for this position is in May and the general elections in November. So definitely something to keep an eye on our future updates, guys. Just make sure you guys are always subscribed and make sure you have that notification turned on so that you don't miss out on any of our important deep dives and analysis videos like this one. In fact, I'm already working on the next one right now, so I'll see you guys there.